Art Focus is a program about the brightest and the most current developments in the fields of art and cultural life in the country and in the world. It is a report about the greatest cultural events like musical concerts, festivals, art exhibitions and theater premieres. You will be able to visit the most interesting theater sets as well as workshops of famous artists, and you will also get acquainted with the best art representatives and learn the secrets of their crafts together with the Art Focus program. Art Focus is always in the focus of the brightest events. Recently, Almaty hosted an anniversary concert of legendary Russian musical group Mirage, which had been popular for its Euro-disco songs for more than 30 years. The musical group has come to our city in its best lineup, with their first concert in Almaty over the last decade, so that it appears to be impossible for the fans to miss the chance to sing their favorite songs with their idols. The concert is dedicated to the 30th anniversary of the musical group, so we are going to hear the hits of the past and of course new songs from the latest album. Today we have not only the loyal fans of the musical group, but also the younger generation. We also expect the audience to expand, because the musical group keeps up with the times, constantly evolving and changing. Mirage's debut album was released in 1987. Natalia Gulkina became the vocalist of the musical group. Then there were Natalia Vetlitskaya, Tatiana Ovsienko and Irina Saltykova. And since 1990s, the soloist has been Ekaterina Boldasheva. The musical group has 5 albums and several singles, and currently they are on tour recording new songs, and this year they released new video. It was a wonderful concert. We came with friends and hoped to have a good time, but it turned out to be incredible. I feel like I do not have enough words to describe all my feelings and emotions. I really enjoyed the concert. I got a lot of positive emotions. I love our city because we have such wonderful people to arrive. Today my dream has finally come true. All my life I dreamed of seeing that musical group of my childhood. They have truly met my expectations. I am very happy. We are very glad to be back in Kazakhstan, and actually we perform here often. Since the 80s we have traveled almost all of Kazakhstan. And honestly, there is no such a hospitable place as here in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is a very hospitable country with very hospitable people. This is why we are glad to come here again and again. We have been in Almaty in the early 2000s, and now we have another visit. We have already had a chance to walk around the city and even visit Mideo. We have been very pleased and welcome here to travel around the city with the organizers. And we also have a dream. We really want to sing our song entitled "Music Tied Us Together" in the Kazakh language. By the way, we have a version in Tatar and English, and now we need to make a version of this song in Kazakh, and we will sing it with pleasure in our next tour. Did you know that the car, telephone, computer, electronic microscope and even condensed milk were first presented at the World Expo exhibitions? The pavilion of the World Expo Museum in Astana represents the major milestones of technical progress. This is the pavilion of the World Exhibition Museum, opened on the 1st of May in Shanghai. It is a branch of the museum which is presented at Expo 2017 in Astana. In the history of Expo, 42 official exhibitions and 102 specialized exhibitions were held over the period of 166 years. In this pavilion you can find out general information about the history of Expo, about its documents, how it developed through time starting from 1851 until Expo to be held in Dubai in 2020. In the second hall of this museum you can see the designs and constructions that have become the most famous in the world, that is Eiffel Tower, Ferris wheel in Chicago, Crystal Palace in London and Space Needle in Seattle. These have been designed in honor of exhibitions and are now the most famous sites of mentioned cities. Here you can see items represented at the end of the 19th century, for example Thomas Edison's light bulb. You can also see Otis safety elevator, which is widely used around the world and represents an invention which has also been exhibited at one of the expos. We also have rocket locomotive, introduced at the end of the 19th century, as well as the first steam engine, the first internal combustion engine. And if we talk about the recent expos, you can see electric cars and other new technologies that are used today. The World Museum is established in the place where 7 years ago Expo 2010 has been held in Shanghai. There are 8 halls with a total area of 9,000 square meters, where visitors can see over 3,000 items collected from different parts of the world and devoted to the world exhibitions held within the last 2 centuries. With the use of modern technologies, all guests of Astana Expo 2017 have a unique opportunity to visit the Shanghai Museum without leaving the capital. In our museum you can see and explore not only historical photographs and facts, you can have a glimpse of the history using 3D holograms projected onto a TV screen. You can also have a video tour of the museum in Shanghai, and in the 4th hall we have a special machine using which you can have a virtual tour of the city of Shanghai from the bird's eye view. At the end of the Expo 2017, the most outstanding items of the exhibition in Kazakhstan will arrive to the World Expo Museum in Shanghai to make its mark on the history of the world progress. The world's first radio broadcast was aired in the early 20th century. Today, hundreds of millions of people turn on the radio to listen to their favorite programs or music. Our guest today is radio presenter Diana Snegina, who is going to tell about her interesting profession.
В Алматы 19 часов, в начале часа новости и далее Silent Circle Touch in the Night.
It all began, of course, in my childhood. My grandmother was fond of radio. She could be listening to it all day long, and naturally, I also had to listen to the radio with her. I got used to the fact that radio was an integral part of our everyday life. I dreamed of becoming an actress, and I had several attempts to enter Theatre Institute. Radio, television and cinema, however, were allied professions, so I was glad that I had not entered Theatre Institute and did not become an actress, and became a radio presenter instead. It was Ukraine, and I got there completely by accident. We had a lot of small music shops, and I often went there to buy some music. And then they had an announcement that they needed a shop assistant. And I was a great expert of the music market, and I was a music lover as well. And when I came to get a job, I was asked if I was good at music, and naturally I said yes. I started working there, and in a short time, I had the most of the total sales. I was asked how I actually did it, and I said that I could identify any song from a half a note. Usually my clients were people looking for a certain song, and they sang it to me, and I identified. I always wanted to help people, and even if I could not identify the song, I would always offer an alternative, so no one had left without buying something. Then my chief told me that I had a good voice, so I could try to record an advertisement. When he listened to the record, he suggested my going on the radio. I remember my first broadcast in every detail. I went on the air and said hello, and then I did not recognize my voice in the headphones at all, so I became terrified and just could not say a word. My chief shouted that I should say something, and I did start to talk, but now I do not remember what I was saying. And then he asked me what had happened, and I said that I just did not recognize my voice. It was all very funny. Then I left for Kyrgyzstan, where my mother lived. I got a job at the best radio in Kyrgyzstan. I almost lived in our office. I even had a folding bed there. My air was from 6 AM to 12 PM. Then I went home and tried to get some sleep, and then my air was from 10 PM to 12 AM. After that I slept in the office, and in the morning I went on the air again. Those were my working hours. Later I got a call and I was told that I was sent a letter with a job offer on the radio in Almaty. So I came and stayed there. Since then, I've been working on the radio for 16 years already. Of course, at first I was terrified to go on the air. I was afraid of making a mistake, which was why I always wrote everything down, even the phrase "Hello, it is 12 AM in the Almaty," because I did not want to make a mistake. Now, of course, I get used to be on the air. I know that people are listening to me, and the number of people is 10 million. As soon as the microphone turns on, I smile, I am happy, and I have no idea what is happening in my head in that very moment, as if there is some switcher. We do have a responsibility. It cannot be the other way, especially when you work for such an audience. You must understand that many things depend on your word, whether someone is going to be happy or depressed, which can also happen. So I think that all the radio presenters understand the responsibility they have when they go on the air. That is why we deliberately choose every word we use. But we are only humans, and we also have mood swings, but in our case it goes from super good to just fine without falling down to something negative. We probably somehow even build up the musical taste of people. It is a true joy when you say something on the air, and then someone meets you on the street and starts to quote you or something to say, because it has stuck in his or her memory. The profession of radio presenter is comprehensive. You must be a psychologist, analyst, historian, writer, physicist and chemist. You should know a small part of every subject in any sphere. There is a word dilettante, which earlier has applied to a person who understands everything but to a restricted extent. And now the word dilettante denotes a person who does not understand a thing, which is a loss of a true meaning of the word. So here, on the radio, we need to be dilettantes in its old meaning, according to Ozhiga's or Dial's dictionaries. We have to know many things, and it makes us prepared for going on the air, even if it looks like an improvisation. We already have experience and background. For example, I have been working in the library for a long time. I have read a lot of books, and when someone comes to work on the radio, I always advise them to read as many books as possible and be interested in everything. It is practical to have a notebook with you, so you can write down some interesting phrase you hear or interesting idea that comes to your mind. You are sure to use it all on the air. Choose a job you love, and you will never have to work a day in your life. If you love what you do, you will enjoy every day, because it is a great happiness when you go to work with joy, and the same great happiness when you are glad to go home from work. It is such a true harmony and happiness.